Hi, welcome back. Well, we have an interesting story for you today. We have in the studio Phil and Belle Thompson, who are married.
Yes, that's right.
Wow. No, but in all seriousness, it's a pretty amazing story because both of you, for many, many years, were just praying, God, please help me to find this right person for me. But it wasn't until you were 30 years old that you found the right person. Well, what's the problem? Too picky? What?
Well, a lot of people said that.
Yeah.
When I was 15, I had a strong desire from God to become a husband. And I actually assumed that my journey would follow that of my parents, who were high school sweethearts and are still married and doing great today. And God had a different plan in mind. So,
And Belle?
I'm thankful now, looking back, that because I think God really used, wouldn't you say, used those extra years to really develop things in our character and certain things that just for us needed working through. And I'm thankful. I think I got a better husband because of the extra years that God was working through some of your stuff. But
God needed more time on me.
Do you think if you'd met each other at 21 that...
we've asked ourselves that. I honestly don't know, but I think, for me, when I was 17 and I was a brand new Christian, I felt like God said to me really, really clearly that he had someone special for me to marry. And for me, and I thought at that point I was going to be single forever. I'd never had a boyfriend. And then God gave me this very clear message that he had someone for me. And I just felt really strongly from that age that I could trust God with that. And so I started just pursuing what I felt like he wanted me to do with my life, which was music ministry, and really just getting to know who he was more. And I didn't expect to have to wait till I was 30, till I finally met Phil, but it was totally worth the wait, absolutely.
But
that
also
was just
God's grace too, because we've had various opportunities along the way, but I think God's grace and mentors and people in our lives just saying, no, just stick on the path. It'll be worth it. Don't compromise.
Because there's that temptation to sort of settle, say, well, look,
totally.
she'll have me or he'll have me. And that's 80% of the way there, surely.
Totally. And yet God's plan for us is so good. It is so worth it to walk closely with him and just be like, hang on, God, is this your plan for me? Is this... because there's so much that hinges on your marriage, and it just impacts every area of your life. So I look back and just really, really thankful, for getting to know who God is and
How did you meet? Was it like across a crowded room, eyes met, love at first sight?
Yeah, the slow music started.
That was a really cool story because I was in ministry in Coffs Harbour and with my home church, and we had a period of 2 years without a senior minister. So myself and another guy sort of stepped in to oversee things. And Belle actually contacted me and said, I'm doing a New South Wales tour. Would you like to book me?
I lived in Queensland at the time.
And wow, I got more than I bargained for there.
It was fun, actually. So when I came to sing, he said, we'll do an interview with you on stage. And then, so we had this kind of moment on stage. That happens a fair bit at gigs. People will do an interview before I sing and, tell us about your CDs and tell us about your music. And he said, okay, go and grab a seat because we'll get you up to sing after the church announcements. And I said, I normally get worse questions than that, like, are you single?
Yeah, so you're saying this from the front, like up on stage.
This is in the interview. And as soon as I said it, I was like, why did I just say that? And we kind of looked at each other and the whole church went, ooh, like this audible sound.
So did you actually know that each other was single at that point?
I think at that moment I knew. It was pretty much like the whole church was my wingman. And they're like, wow, we've been praying for this girl.
Because I start walking off then mortified and they're like catcalling and he says after, he's like, if you knew how many people at church have been praying for me to meet the right girl. So that's probably one of the really cool things because really we both were super involved in Phil in his church in Coffs and me up in Brisbane. And people praying for us for years and encouraging us. Like every time I would want to be taking an easier path or, perhaps compromise, God sent people along to say, Belle, it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it to stay close to God. It's going to be worth it to stick on his path and do what you really know is the right thing. And so when finally, that wedding day came, my goodness, our communities, it was worship. It was like, God, you are faithful. It is worth it. It was very special.
And that was like nearly 3 years ago now.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Coming up to our anniversary if anyone wants to send us presents.
So, but here you are getting married, maybe a little later in life than maybe some people do. Is there a tendency to sort of get stuck in your ways and then find it difficult to sort of mesh?
I think the giftings that God's given each of us, they can either compete with one another. And my mentor says it this way: you're either competing or you're completing.
That's nice.
And so for myself, I'm organised, strategic. I've got a business background, and then I married a creative. So and that's kind of like doesn't fit in. So
opposites attract, they say. Yeah.
But I think even in any marriage, like we've had all the normal like fights about how to load the dishwasher, how to do the washing. Maybe if you're younger, I don't know if it's different, but certainly we had we had very set ways of how to do things, and we've had to learn that the compromise is actually worth it for what you gain for the relationship, and that it's actually okay to maybe change the way you do things or it's
and
just
to be
worth it.
authentic as well. I mean, we're sharing on platforms, and so we kind of have unresolved things in our marriage, and then be on the platform saying, encouraging people to be faithful.
There's, every time there's a fight, we just try. We're committed to making this work, and so it's worth it. It sometimes takes us a long time to be talking through and a whole lot of tears, but get to that place where it's like we value the other person more than the issue and more than being right about this. And sometimes it's several conversations before it's sorted, but it's worth it.
Well, one thing I'd like to ask, and that's that, Belle, you're involved in full-time music ministry. I'd just like to get an idea of how that affects your relationship. I'm thinking of Phil in particular because, as you said, Phil, you've got this business background. You're a man who likes to be organised, and you've now hitched yourself to this creative star that's sort of darting all about the country. Is that a challenge for you, like as a man, to to sort of be the offsider and
we made a very intentional decision when we got married that we're going to do this together as far as the music ministry is concerned. And to be honest, we didn't quite know how that was going to look. We had the temptation for sending Belle out to do her thing, and I'll continue to pursue business activities. But what we did is we changed it up so that we could do things together, and God's really opened doors now for me to also share as part of the ministry, both with preaching and with doing leadership workshops and things of this nature as well. But
I have to give credit to Phil too, though. Honestly, he has really been very intentional about going, this is going to be an us thing. The ministry is about us, and I think we share a very a big passion for ministry that's the same. But the giftings
love the local church.
We love the local church, so we love to travel to share in local churches. And now it's honestly one of our Bible verses at our wedding was in Ecclesiastes, 2 are better than 1, for they have a good return for their labour. And I see that all over in ministry. Everything that I've done has been made far more effective by having someone who's strategic and having someone who just thinks differently and brings different giftings. So it was either going to kill us or make us way stronger, and it's been worth the compromise to make it work. And I love it. It's so much more fun doing it together. We travel all over together now. And Phil, honestly, I love even more now, rather than just getting up to sing and share on my own, when he brings the word and preaches as part of the presentation or does leadership training.
Does really complement what you're doing.
Totally. And I feel like we can offer so much more now.
And are you offering marriage advice? I mean, now that you've been married for so long.
3 years, we're totally in the...
I mean,
what we
people
do
must hear your story and want to know, well, what about me?
What we do is encourage people in their journey, and whatever that looks like for them. And just to focus on God. That's really the...
When younger people come up and they're like, they perhaps are waiting on God for the right one, my advice to them always is, honestly, what has God laid on your heart? What is your contribution to the world as far as ministry? How has God wired you? Do that. Because as you pursue God, and as you spend your time getting to know Him, you're going to be in the right place. To then for God to bring along that right person.
But in answer to your question, we're not giving marriage advice just yet. We're a long ways from that.
Wow. Yeah. Look, you guys are a really great example of that beautiful Bible verse that says, "Commit your way to the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart." Hey, thanks so much for being with us today on In Focus. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
We'll take a short break now. We'll be back in just a sec.